What is up, everybody? It is Chip Walton. It is a Chop and Brew Dry January update, day 23. We're 23 days in, 8 days from the end, and good news again yesterday for weigh-in Wednesday. I was down to 243. Whoop, whoop. So 8 pounds overall. Um, this week I actually cheated and weighed myself in between weigh-in Wednesdays and was kind of disheartened to see the weight was up and down and up and down, which is why I personally like to just weigh in once a week and really aim for that day versus looking at every day. But I've had many people weigh in and tell me that it's actually good to go weigh yourself every morning so you can really see the effect of whatever you kind of ate and drank and ingested and did or didn't exercise the day before. So either way, feels awesome. Pants feel good. Jacket feels good. A little pep in the step going upstairs and whatnot, both as a mix of the running regimen, which this week kicked up to like a 5 minute interval of jogging, which after doing three, it's funny when you get used to it, the next interval, you're just kind of like your brain is like timing it out. And it's like, oh, well, if this was about three last time, this should be about five. And it's always just a little bit longer that first time. So, anyway, um, the Bark Badass Running Crew page has been on and popping. If you're interested in running, go to that page. We're talking about music, we're talking about breathing, we're just giving high fives where needed and pep talks where needed. Your boy got some new glasses. Check them out. Oh, guess what? First progressive lenses. 42 years old, man. Slippery slope. So yeah, I got my first progressive lenses here. Got my painting of Charlie Peanut that Mommers gave us for Christmas. Pine Top Perkins, legendary blues man. Um, but I wanted to talk a little. I want to get serious. Not really, but I definitely have not been talking a lot about my thoughts and my mental um, kind of debate with this whole month. Much of these videos, and today it kind of came to a head in an interesting way. So today, I mean, I really have not craved beer. I haven't been around it. I've got homebrew kegs in the fridge downstairs when I open it to get a LaCroix. But besides that one day on my birthday where I was like, I should get a barley wine, that was more because like it was my birthday, it was celebratory. But today, the second half of my workday got pretty intense and stressful and just like very, I wouldn't call it frantic, but just, just a lot of changes all of a sudden. Kind of our day shape shifted leading into tomorrow. And there was a moment where my body told itself, like, don't worry, you can have a beer when you get home, or we'll walk over to Barrel Theory or something. And my brain had to like tell it, like, no, you're not. You don't get that. You're not going to rely on that. So I came to a very serious realization today that I definitely, one of many reasons why I use beer and alcohol, many of which I think, some of which are positive and celebratory and even educational, as far as like our beer judging and the education that we try to do on the show. I definitely use it as a stress reliever, maybe even a stress eraser. I realize how easy it has been to drink, I guess, those kind of stresses away. I think a big problem, and I was having this conversation with a former coworker um, who was talking about like, oh, I would like to try the dry January, and was asking me some like things that I'd done, um, and it kind of got me thinking. He asked me like, how many beers do you think you are having on average? And I hadn't actually done that math, which seems kind of ridiculous. It seems like something you do at the outset of something like dry January. But I really just went to zero and just kind of like, don't think, just think about what you're doing now and what you will do in the future. But if I were to do the math, I honestly think I was having, I don't know, I could see 20 to 30 servings, because we're home brewers and sometimes you're taking a little 6 ounce cup off the keg, and over here you're doing this and over here. But 20 to 30 servings of beer. And I remember when I was in the hospital a couple of years ago, and the doctor asked me, how many drinks on average would you say you have? Like 7 a week, 2 a week. And I was just like, man, I don't even want to tell him the answer out of fear of what it really, ultimately, what I was in the hospital for didn't end up being what I needed to be there for. It turned out to be a very expensive way to find out I had sleep apnea by way of the heart department of a freaking hospital. Anyway, I did not want to tell that doctor the truth about how much I had to drink. I'd rather tell him I had 3 cups of coffee, which was honestly more of the problem at that point. 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day than the 7 beers. So a part of what has made my weight and just over drinking easy, I'm sure a lot of homebrewers can relate to this. You got a beer fridge in the basement. You've heard me joke about it numerous times in Chop and Brew about how I always go down and drink a little beer, take a little sip of mead when I'm down there doing laundry. But because like my wife isn't there all the time, kind of like keeping her tab on me, or just anybody like at a bar or out with friends, there are these areas that we all have. I have a fridge in the garage, which is really more like overflow. Sounds horrible as I say it out loud. It's overflow for beer because we typically have a lot of beer. Jesus. So there's a lot of like, I'm grilling. I'll knock out 4 or 5 cans of beer in like an hour and a half of grilling that nobody in the house even knows about. Or they see the one beer that's sitting on the table, but I'm having a couple beers. Same with snow blowing. Or you go down and take a shower, I might crack a beer. And, it's like these invisible beers. It's like because no one else knew that they existed or that I was adding that. It's kind of like my brain was like, well, the only beer that counts is a beer that someone else watches you drink. So that is something that is definitely going to change after this month. And I honestly don't think I'm just going to like go right back into it in February. I've got a lot of stuff on deck the next 8 weeks that I can't have unexpectedly long nights, unexpectedly rough next mornings in that. I was talking with Don O today on Messenger and was just kind of like, I think I really want to make this to where like it's stuff that I make or it's stuff that you make. It's stuff for the videos. Those are things I want to enjoy. There's also a really good article. I'll link it below if I think to do it. I will. It'll be in the video description about drinking mindfully that craftbeer.com put out. It's an interesting read, even if you don't really care about going dry. It's really about just like thinking about the beer you're drinking, which seems to be kind of like where we all, when we get in the craft beer game and homebrew game, that's kind of how we all start. And then next thing you know, we're tasting and slamming and going through multiple beers, kind of without even cataloging it. So at least I should say all this is for me. I know there's people that have Untapped or they've got other kind of apps that they just track that kind of stuff. But for me, 1 beer pretty much means 6 beers. So I either need to get better at like thinking about the 1 beer I'm allowing myself, or I don't have that 1 beer. And then the 1 day a week that I'm going to just open the floodgate. But I can guarantee you that after getting into this running and feeling good about that, it's going to be really not something I want to get engaged in, is these 4 and 5 beers and then just feel like you're working backwards a little bit. So I was going to talk about a bunch of other stuff like what I'm kind of eating and how I'm meal planning, but this is already long enough and it got kind of weird in the middle. So thanks for your support, though. There's been a lot of support. If you look at the comments under these 4 dry January videos, if you're interested in this stuff at all, or even just like, not necessarily going dry, but how some people have limited, there's a lot of talk of fasting, which I essentially have been doing without giving it a name. Just making sure I don't eat after a certain point at night, give my body a break from all ingesting anything. Because of the way Elsa and I's mornings naturally go, we make these badass shakes that have protein powder, a serving of fruit, a serving of Greek yogurt, and some spinach. We don't usually drink those until we get to work, even though we make them at like 5:30 in the morning. I usually don't drink it till 8:30, 9. So yeah, I've been kind of doing an intermittent fasting in a weird way without calling it that, and fasting doesn't always have to mean these like 24-hour stretches or like hunger strike kind of length of not eating. It just means like, yo, your body doesn't need to be digesting and cycling through stuff every hour that you're not asleep. Again, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not here to preach or like promote anything other than what I've been trying, and I wouldn't even promote that because it's working for me. So anyway, man, I've got a BYO article to get upstairs and write. I got a bunch of I'm trying to wrap up that superstition meadery video, and then there's a whole slew of stuff from Norway that is also kind of related to the BYO content that I need to wrap my head around, on top of a 30 to 50 page grad paper that is due in 8 weeks minus 1 night. So, my usual Capricorn like nature of doing all the things all the time. That's the way we roll. All right, chop for chop, brew for brew, dry for dry, wet for wet, whatever you want to do, man. Just support yourself. I don't know what I'm talking about. Support yourself. Yeah, support yourself and support me. Support the crew. If you're a runner, go get on that Bark Badass Running Crew page. Shout out from the life imitating art, imitating life of Charlie P.